in the center of the grand lobby of the state's most luxurious resort, where each marble tile could pay for a semester of college. A young black boy, around 12, stood calmly at the front desk. Dressed neatly in a navy button-up shirt, he held a reservation confirmation in one hand, eyes fixed steadily on the receptionist. There was a quiet confidence in his posture, like someone too used to having to prove he belonged. The lobby was so silent, you could hear every keystroke behind the counter. Then, like a tear through silk, came a voice from the staircase. High-pitched, sharp, furious. "He doesn't belong here." The words cut through the air like an indictment. Every head turned. At the foot of the stairs stood a blonde girl, maybe 13, eyes trained to command, feet accustomed to red carpets and cleared paths. Camille, the resort manager's daughter. She didn't ask who the boy was. She didn't need to. She'd seen enough. His skin was the answer. "This place is for VIP guests, not some public housing project." She bit out every word, loud enough for the whole lobby to hear. The boy didn't flinch, didn't argue, didn't lower his head. He just stood there, silent, unshaken, almost disturbingly calm. 15 seconds later, the revolving door turned. A woman walked in, charcoal gray suit, heels clicking like a war drum. And in the stunned silence of the room, she marched straight to the front desk, eyes like steel, and said, "Take your hands off my son." Wellington Crest didn't look like a school. It looked like a finishing institute for royalty. Thick carpeted hallways, brass wall sconces, glass-paneled doors reflecting children stepping out of imported SUVs, tailored blazers, polished leather shoes, walking business cards of the dynasties behind them. At Wellington Crest, people didn't ask, "How are your grades?" They asked, "Where does your father invest?" In the classical literature classroom, where soft light poured from frosted crystal chandeliers onto mahogany desks, Tariq Carter always sat in the front row. 12 years old, black, quiet, but always on time, pen steady, handwriting neat, eyes sharp, absorbing every word like it mattered. He didn't stand out because of wealth. He stood out because of precision. To a few teachers, that was a rare virtue, but to his classmates, especially those whose last names were etched into real estate empires, hotel chains, or luxury watch brands, he was off-key. At Wellington Crest, your family name was your passport, and Tariq Carter didn't echo the legacy of any tower or trademark. To them, he was a discordant note in their elite symphony, not because he lacked merit, but because he was better than some of them, without coming from where they believed better should begin. And Tariq knew it. He'd learned to walk those corridors quietly, past every gaze that wasn't curious, but accusatory. "Which door did you come through?" their eyes asked, and every step he took was his answer. Monday morning literature class. The room was still, suspended in quiet after Ms. Welling posed a question about metaphor in To Kill a Mockingbird. She scanned the room. Sleepy eyes, slouched backs. Then slowly, a single hand rose. Tariq, as always. His voice was low and steady, unfolding the layered meanings behind silence and gaze in the novel, as if he hadn't just read the book, but lived inside it. A small nod from Ms. Welling, slight, but sincere, and then a deliberate sigh echoed from the back of the class, followed by a voice, a sharp one, poison wrapped in pearls, just loud enough to be heard by everyone. "Didn't know they let the help audit classes now." Tariq didn't need to look back. He knew that voice. Camille Whitmore, blonde ponytail pulled tight, Burberry coat draped carelessly over her chair, eyes that slid over people like they were undertrained waitstaff. Daughter of Richard Whitmore, CEO of a luxury hotel empire. Camille lived in a world where needs were met before they were spoken. The room froze. Some chuckled under their breath. Some looked away. No one laughed out loud, but no one said a word either. Tariq didn't turn around, didn't blink, didn't breathe differently. He just tightened his grip around his pen and returned to his notes. To Camille, that silence wasn't an end. It was an invitation. She liked drawing blood from people who refused to scream. Camille never had to scream at Tariq. She didn't need to. Her weapons were accidental questions, sugar-coated sentences laced with venom, tossed into the air like harmless filler between class periods and bell rings. Do you live close to school? Oh, wait. Scholarship, right? Remind me, what does your mom do again? Clean for someone in the neighborhood? They weren't real questions. There were no question marks at the end. They were silent verdicts, spoken with a voice just innocent enough to make them hard to call out, every time, but sharp enough to tilt her head through pride, half smile, eyes glittering with victory, dressed up as innocence. And Tariq? He never snapped back, never argued, never ran. He'd just meet her eyes, nod slightly, or turn away. Because he knew. In places like this, even a furrowed brow could be used as evidence. Camille thought silence meant defeat. But in truth, it was the choice of someone who'd spent his whole life being judged by the color of his skin and the space he dared to stand in. Tariq had learned to wear calm like armor, because in a world where every step he took was watched like a mistake, the only way to survive was to walk straight, deliberate, unapologetic. Weekend morning. Solaria Resort awakened beneath a golden glaze of sunlight streaming through its glass-paneled roof. Staff moved with clockwork precision, silver trays, white linens, sparkling glassware, all unfolding like a silent performance. But amid the serene choreography, there was chaos, and it radiated from the VIP table at the far end of the terrace, Camille Whitmore. She sat poised beneath a cream-colored umbrella, silk scarf perfectly knotted at her neck, designer sunglasses pushed onto her flawless blonde hair. In front of her, a croissant she had shoved aside for being too crispy, and a cucumber water she had tossed back for being not cold enough. 3 servers had rotated through her table in 15 minutes. None had satisfied her. Camille smirked, scanning the terrace like she was hunting for the next thing to punish. Truffle oil. I said truffle oil. Not this cheap crap. She snapped at a young waiter, then demanded the head chef and housekeeping because her guest robe was dragging like it belonged in a 3-star motel. 13 years old, the youngest guest on the rooftop, and yet the entire terrace moved like a royal court under her regency. Camille was used to being served, used to controlling the room, used to everything bowing to the Whitmore name. But then, in the shimmer of reflected glass, she spotted a familiar figure stepping into the lobby, a black boy, alone, shirt crisp, posture calm. He walked straight to the front desk, unbothered, unrushed. Camille froze. It couldn't be. Not him, not here, but it was. Tariq Carter. Camille stormed into the lobby like she was marching to defend her family's honor. Her heels struck the marble floor like war drums, announcing a battle only she believed was underway. And there he was, Tariq, standing at the check-in counter, alone, polite, composed, and completely unapologetic. The sight of him boiled Camille's blood, not because Tariq had done anything wrong, but because his calm presence in a place he wasn't supposed to belong shattered everything she'd been taught about order. "Excuse me?" she shouted. "Can someone explain why this person is standing at the check-in counter?" Every head in the lobby turned. Tariq glanced back. He recognized the voice before the face, but he said nothing. Camille marched forward, finger pointed like a dagger. "This is a 5-star resort, not a trainee program or a community outreach project. Is your mom on the housekeeping staff or something?" Tariq stayed still, unshaken. His voice came soft, but clear. "My mother made the reservation. I arrived early to check in, just like she instructed." The receptionist, Monica, froze, eyes darting between Camille and Tariq, then back to the screen in front of her. And there it was, VIP suite, reserved by Amelia Carter. Note, son. Tariq Carter arriving early. Assist with early check-in. Camille didn't know that, but Monica did. And now Monica stood caught between two forces. One, the daughter of the general manager. The other, the truth. The sound of leather shoes echoed hurriedly from the hallway, behind the front desk. Richard Whitmore, Camille's father and general manager of Solaria Resort, emerged with his usual look of mild irritation, his eyes sweeping the lobby like he was surveying damage. "What's going on here?" he barked. No politeness, no patience. Camille spun toward him, like a cub spotting its alpha. "Dad, thank God. This kid was trying to check into an upper-floor suite. He says his mom booked it. His mom, do you hear me? A black kid, alone." Richard didn't ask for details, didn't look at the screen, didn't check the system. All he needed was one glance at the boy's skin and his modest school uniform, and his judgment was final. He marched straight up to Tariq, voice dry and sharp, like he'd given this command 100 times before. "Son, this is private property. You can't just walk in here and pretend to be a guest. Get out." Tariq stepped back slightly. "Sir, my mother." But he didn't get to finish. Richard grabbed his arm, like he'd just caught a trespasser. "We're not stupid. You think you can fool us that easily?" he hissed through gritted teeth, loud enough for other guests to turn their heads under the weight of strangers' eyes. Not because he'd done anything wrong, but because the verdict had already been written before he even spoke. And then the revolving door turned. A pair of heels entered, deliberate, silent, but hitting the marble floor like a judge's gavel. Amelia Carter had arrived. The sound of heels hitting marble rang out, steady and deliberate. Each step, cold, precise, unrushed. The revolving door came to a halt, revealing the silhouette of a black woman in a charcoal gray suit, tailored so sharply it looked like it had been cut with a blade. In her left hand, a dark leather briefcase, her right hand slowly tightening into a fist. Time seemed to slow in the lobby. Monica stopped breathing. Camille froze, her sentence suspended midair. Richard still hadn't let go of Tariq. And then, without raising her voice, without hurrying her pace, without a shred of theatrics, Amelia Carter spoke. Her voice was low, clear, like a moral verdict handed down from a higher court. "Take your hand off my son." No one moved, not a sound, only Richard's eyes, widening by the second, as he realized the woman standing before him was not some boy's mother. She took one more step forward. Then, calmly, she reached into the inside pocket of her suit jacket and pulled out a sleek black card holder. With a flick as clean as a safety latch clicking open, she revealed the name engraved in gold: Amelia Carter, Chief Executive Officer, Carter Legacy, Hotels Group Owner, Solaria Resort. When her eyes finally met Richard's, They didn't burn with anger. They didn't need to. They carried something far more devastating: power. And in that moment, the man who thought he ran the place began to tremble. The plot twist had arrived, and for the first time, real power had a voice. Amelia Carter didn't need to raise her voice. She simply stood there, spine straight, eyes sharp as a blade, voice low, but so clear each word dropped like a gavel-striking stone. You laid hands on my son. In the lobby, in front of your staff, in front of your guests, on property that I own. Richard stammered, a sheen of sweat blooming beneath the collar of his perfectly pressed shirt. Ms. Carter, I didn't know. You didn't need to know who he was. Her voice cut him off, each syllable striking like a hammer. All you needed to know was that he's a child, a guest, with a reservation, deserving of welcome, deserving of respect, like anyone else who walks through these doors. The room held its breath. Monica was visibly shaking behind the desk. Tariq stood still, his eyes locked on his mother, watching something unfold that felt bigger than just being defended. Amelia turned then, for the first time, locking eyes with Camille, who had retreated behind her father, hands clenched tight around her purse straps. "And you," she said, not loud, but with a chill that could cut steel. "You didn't need your hands to harm anyone. You used your voice. You used your last name. You used your father's position to turn prejudice into a weapon. You threatened staff, called security, lied, all of it, because of one thing. You believed my son didn't belong here." No one spoke, because in that moment, the accusation didn't need proof. It was already felt. In the silence that wrapped around everyone like a sentence handed down by truth itself. Amelia turned toward the operations manager, standing pale at the edge of the lobby, clutching a tablet like she wished she could disappear. Her voice remained steady, not a word wasted. "There are enough witnesses. Security cameras are fully operational. I don't need an apology. I need action." Then she delivered it, quietly, precisely, with finality. "Richard Whitmore is hereby relieved of duty. All system access is revoked. Security will escort him off the premises. Termination papers and a civil complaint will be filed within 24 hours. The words fell like the sound of a coffin lid closing on a throne. Richard's jaw dropped, unable to believe what he was hearing. You can't. I just did." Amelia cut him off. No glance back. No need to explain. A security officer stepped forward, polite but firm. Camille stood frozen, like stone. No one said a word to her. No one stepped in. Just the quiet shame of classmates avoiding her gaze. The same ones who once orbited her like satellites around the halo of the name Whitmore. Days later, that name vanished from the Wellington Crest system. Camille's scholarship, funded through the hotel group, was revoked. She was asked to clear her locker by Friday. No messages, no sympathy, no one choosing her side. There were no tears, no stage for remorse, only a hollow reality, and a lesson that arrived too late. Privilege isn't permanent, and reputation can never replace character. In the days that followed, as the incident at Solaria Resort spread through the company network, reports filed, footage reviewed, testimonies recorded. Showed up to school on time. Tariq said nothing. Sat in the same seat, wrote with the same old pen, in the same steady handwriting. No triumphant smile, no retelling of what happened. Not once did he mention it. One late afternoon, he sat with his mother on the front porch. Sunset traced soft gold into his hair. Amelia held her son's hand and asked gently, "How do you feel?" after everything. Tariq stared into the distance for a moment, then answered in a voice deeper than his years. I don't want anyone to be ruined. I just want to be seen for who I am. Amelia said nothing more. She simply held his hand tighter, a quiet acknowledgement that the boy she raised had not only grown, but had held onto his humanity in a moment where even the strongest could have lost theirs. A few weeks later, a letter arrived from the Young Leaders Program for Outstanding Minority Students. Tariq had been awarded a full summer scholarship, invited to attend leadership and public speaking training in Washington, D.C. He didn't jump for joy. He didn't shout. He just nodded, slid the letter into his backpack like it was just the next step. Because for Tariq, worth wasn't found in praise after pain. It was found in never letting the world erase him, even when it tried. He didn't win by striking back. He won because he never broke. Solaria Resort still opens its doors every day. Breakfast is still served beneath white umbrellas. Crystal still clinks at the rooftop bar. But something has changed, not in the paint or the decor, but in the way people look at one another. After that day, Amelia Carter didn't hold a press conference. She made no bold public statements. She simply issued a quiet directive to her team. We don't wait for scandal to do what's right. Every staff member was enrolled in a new training series on unconscious bias, human dignity, and equitable service. No one was threatened, but no one was allowed to remain indifferent. From that point on, every guest, whether walking in wearing an Armani suit or a school shirt, would be greeted with the same look: respect. Tariq's story was documented in the company's internal training archive, not to shame, but to remind. Silence is sometimes a form of consent. Out there, children like Tariq, dark-skinned, without legacy names, but carrying a dignity that no money could ever buy, began to be seen differently. Not because someone was destroyed, but because someone dared to remain whole in the silence, until the truth had no more corners to hide in. This time, justice did not bow. It stood, and it stood for a long, long time.